today, particularly about the rapid pace of technology change today. What are steps, key steps that particularly our young audience can take to future-proof themselves, particularly if they're in a knowledge worker job today? Maybe start off with Topp.
For me, the most important skills are not really the IQ or the EQ, but the AQ, adaptability quotient. That's the most important thing we need to have as a takeaway from today.
I would say adaptability is very important, of course, because as jobs are getting automated, people are going to have to change jobs multiple times in their life. And by multiple, I don't mean 2 or 3 times, but you might end up having to change jobs every 2 years, right? So adaptability and learning is very important. The other thing is critical thinking, and that becomes even more important. As AI is automating a lot of jobs, think about programmers, for example, right? You are not going to be a programmer. Your programmer is going to be an AI software that is going to create a complex software for you, and you are going to be a product manager that are going to be talking natural language with an AI that builds the software, then you have another AI that is testing it, then you have another AI that is doing other things, right? You have to think critically, because you have to judge the job of those AI programmers. It's not that you are going to program it yourself. You have to judge the output of AI. Another reason why critical thinking is very important is that, well, you understand that with deep fakes, with chatbots, etc., the concept of truth disappears. It's very difficult to know what is true and what is not true, right? And people have to be especially critical in order to understand what is true, what is not true, because it's becoming more and more difficult, right? So yeah, critical thinking.
For me, it's trust. So trust in yourself, trust in community, trust in helping each other. And the second part is follow your heart, follow your passion. And if your passion is artificial intelligence, or if your passion is digital currencies, follow it, right? And trust in yourself before you trust in a machine.
Fantastic. I agree with all three: adaptability, critical thinking, trust. I would love for everyone here to know that you can make the change, you can make the pivot. I think a lot of times when we are faced with a challenge or disruption, the first thing we think is, how am I going to do this? But I really want us to realize that all of us have this inner reservoir of unconditionality within us, and we need to learn to tap into that, because that is really what we're going to need to rely on to make this shift. And also, when you start realizing actually how powerful your thoughts are, and you're realizing how powerful you are, working on becoming a co-creator of the reality that you want. You know, there's so much information out there on the internet that teaches us about all of these principles. If we can embrace that without fear, but knowing that we all deserve to live the life that we want, we can take the reins back. We can really leverage AI. We can really leverage what's coming in a way that serves us. And it all starts with that self-belief that I am worthy of it, I deserve it, and I can.
Okay, so thank you for people entering questions. They're starting to come through. If you have any questions, please scan the QR code and I'll see them come up here. The audience isn't satisfied. They want to know, what are the jobs of the future? What should they be focusing their energy on? We talk about adaptability, etc. And Khun Topp mentioned the merger between a business development and a marketing role. So if you're particularly in a white-collar job, which I imagine quite a few in the audience are, what real steps can they take tomorrow to prepare themselves for AI? And what are the jobs that AI are going to create that they should be focused on?
I think we'd love to hear from Topp about this, right?
Sure. I'm also in the Future of Jobs forum program, and a part of the 44% of our current skill sets would become obsolete. They also share the new trade patterns emerging, these new activities from GDP. For example, in Thailand, we heavily reliant on tourism, right, and traditional petrol plants, right, export of parts. But last year, digital trade was increasing very fast, percentage-wise, right? Digital trade. Service trade is also increasing as part of the GDP. And digital service trade is increasing even more. But the new type of trade, called green trade, tripled the amount last year, 300% green trade. So in the Future of Jobs forum, since the trade pattern is changing, they show us 3 bullet points on the future of jobs. The first bullet point was on the green jobs, green human capital skills. The arrow was pointing upwards. So there will be a huge demand and probably lack of human capital on this going forward. Green jobs, for example, in economics, we used to study negative externalities. Right? For example, Singa company, the beer company, right? They have Singa estate. They did the reclaimed land in Maldives, built like man-made island, reclaimed land. And there was this particular new role that his or her job was to count the number of turtles. And everything would have monetary values attached to each of the turtles and see if this reclaimed land is impacting any of the natural previous ecosystem. So imagine in the future where all the big 4 accounting firms or the big 4 auditing firms, they will have to create a new table for the negative externalities that would have to be accounted for in all the balance sheet and income statement that all the companies describe. And for the second bullet point, digital, there were 2 arrows, up and down. There'll be job losses because AI is democratizing all the technical benefits, and there'll be job gains. For example, AI responsibility partner as a new role, right? To co-design on core values or guardrails and this stuff. So there'll be a job transition, and also unbundling and rebundling of jobs with the upcoming AI automation. But they said augmentation would occur before automation. And there's a reason why. Because if a company, say if the founder or the CEO, goes to an employee and said, well, AI is gonna come in and pretty much replace you. I don't need you anymore. The company can gain 100, 200% extra productivity gain. As human, we're not going to be embracing that new technology because it is replacing us. So obviously, automation, even though it's the lowest hanging fruit, there'll be friction. It's not going to go well. So instead, CEOs, founder, we would go and say, well, customer support team, with the upcoming, of AI deployment, the customers that you're talking to every day, they will be even more happier, and you'll have more time to free yourself to do other things, and you'll be like a Superman, right? And you're gonna embrace this new tool. So they said augmentation would occur first before automation, and they talk about digital human, which we have to cross. They were mocking the web moderator and said that we could have a AI moderator with all the knowledge on the back end of everything around the world and can ask all the right questions. And the founder of Salesforce was like, well, we have to cross the hurdle of trust. Are we going to trust this digital doctor? Are we going to trust this digital, whatever, digital people that does fix? So there'll be job changes in the digital, both arrow up, pointing upwards and downwards. And the last point, traditional companies, traditional roles, downwards for sure.
Okay, now I think one thought that comes to mind when I hear you talk, and I've not heard anyone mention it, but the economics argument got me thinking about it, and is demographics, right? Demographics are changing, Thailand's becoming older, less kids being born these days, right? So demographics will play a huge part. And I think we need to look to Japan, particularly, seems to be at the forefront, and also I think increasingly Europe. And I think that will open up opportunities as well. There's one question I love here I've got to ask. So, Megha, loved your presentation. It aligns with my parenting skills. I see myself applying to this to my children. How can I take this to my board of directors?
Invite me. I'll help you. But I'm absolutely passionate about, just reframing and just re-looking at how we have interacted with each other. I have 3 kids myself, and when I was becoming a parent for the first time, I thought, oh my goodness, I've never done this before. And I certainly don't want to do it the way my parents have done it. So I went to school. I went to parenting school, and I got myself certified to be a parent coach. And I think that was the most incredible thing I could have done for myself. And of course for my children. So my son is 17 now, and I've been practicing this approach since he was born. And I have to say I marvel at the outcome every day. Right? So yes, I will happily champion this cause and speak to your board, whichever board it is.
Okay, one for Pedro. And then for all panelists, right? Is there something essential with humans that cannot be transferred to a computer? Is there something essential to the human spirit body that can't be transferred to a computer? And they're right, yes or no answer is fine.
Well, I mean, you can think about consciousness. Sorry, is consciousness something that can be transferred to a machine? I think that would be something that could potentially not be transferred. Other people will say emotions, but artificial intelligence can have emotions. Emotions is just a shortcut in your train of thought, and an algorithm could have that. An algorithm that is being trained in real time could have that kind of instability that leads to an emotion. So emotions are completely, a machine could have emotions in the future. Now consciousness is a different animal, because consciousness means that you know that you exist, that you know that what you are doing at each moment. We don't really understand what consciousness means and how it happens. We don't know, right? So it's very difficult to know. Number one, is it necessary for an intelligent machine to be conscious? I mean, if we are doing the same things, just we are not conscious, are we less intelligent? Can we know if another person or if a machine is conscious? Is it even knowable, right? And how does it happen? Some people say that consciousness is just that our brain is limited, it's limited in size, and because it's limited in size, we cannot do everything at the same time. So we have to load like a model of the world in our brain that focuses us on something. And that is what we call consciousness. So I would say maybe that could be something that could not be transferred to machine. If a machine has an unlimited processing capacity, maybe it's not necessary. But the question is, does it make a difference? I don't know if it makes.
And a question just come in that I personally think a lot about, and I'll ask Dereck. It's particularly around the safety question around AI, the guardrails, right? So the question is, what if AI alignment kills everyone? What if AI has a linear mindset? What if AI is an atheist and hates temples? What if AI hates blue-collar workers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. First of all, which I mentioned, data, right? So who is going to control data? Also, don't forget that AI is made by people. How do you know that that AI, who is supposed to be biased, right? How do you know that? when Facebook launched or when Google launched, even if I tell you say something now, I want to buy a Porsche, tomorrow on your Facebook you will see advertisement of Porsche. You're not aware of that. So this can happen the same with AI, right? So this is a security issue. The other security issue, who controls the data? And how is this data secured? Yeah? And this will have really big trouble between countries too. Because now we have a few big ones who are in clouds, for example. And for example, national sensitive data of a country is in a cloud. So where is that data really stored? It's maybe not in Thailand, but it has to supposed to be in Thailand, right? Because it belongs to Thailand, right? So this is really, I think, the two most important things besides of AI, quantum computing, and the new reality is that 2 points, which is data, big data, and management of data, and cybersecurity. This is massive, and this is gonna change everything. Same when you started with your exchange, how important is it to have cybersecurity and your data, where it's stored, who has access to it, right? Or same with your brain, right? Who has access to your brain? This is also something. You can already, I remember 20 years ago, I had a bar in Barcelona, and I already implemented chips in the arm of the people to do the payment, right? And that was 20 years ago. In 2001, I had my first metaverse. So where are we going now, right? So this is important to realize, the cybersecurity, who is controlling the data, how you store the data, and the speed of data, adaptability of data, and reliance of the data.
Okay, I think we're crushed for time, so I'll ask one final question that kind of summarizes a few questions here, so apologies if I don't ask a specific question. I kind of sympathize with some of these questions in the sense that I use ChatGPT. I find it a bit of a toy, right? I thought, I'm thinking about opening a business in Japan, I'll get ChatGPT to write me the business case. What came back was interesting in terms of general subject matter, but to get to the real heart of it, it was taking more work to actually tune the engine to get the answer than me write it myself. So is there any tools today that people that you guys are using in your job that you would class as AI and are helpful?
I use my heart, and I use my soul, I use my brain, and I use my passion, and I use my vibrations. I think that is my AI.
Sam Open was at Web 2 last week, and the moderator was joking with him that he was saying that you are being sued by New York Times because your Open AI is using all of the previous articles and with your machine learning and able to predict future articles, etc. And Sam was like, well, we are having a productive discussion with New York Times. So there are two pathways for OpenAI. He said on stage. He said, going forward, he is launching a decentralized payment business model where the owner of the data can get paid. He's finding a way to monetize the data for everyone. And the second one is what I find particularly interesting. He said, well, in the future going forward, the OpenAI will need less input, but he will force his AI to think harder. So there will be less input needed compared to before, but the outcome will be superior or even more by forcing the AI to think harder. So with your issue, I think there will be less and less going forward.
Well, yeah. Large language models. I don't know. I hope this works. I don't know how to say it. Large language models are not intelligent in the sense that the answers that they are given are based on statistic correlations of what words typically go together. So the model is trying to predict what is the best next word that I can add to this speech so that it follows the statistical patterns of the threads that I have been trained with. What is going to happen next, and I think Topp was mentioning that, is critical thinking, is causality, thinking about cause effect, right? Which is something that language models don't do. And that's why when you ask them to do a business plan, they write something that looks like a business plan, but it doesn't make any sense. Because language models don't understand causality, don't understand causal thinking. And this is what all these large language model companies, from OpenAI to Meta, etc., this is what they are focusing at this moment. They want to create AI that can really think and not just follow statistical models. And I think it will happen, right? There are different ways of doing that, and I think it's absolutely, it will come sooner rather than later.
So I've been as enamored by ChatGPT, and I think I've had too much fun with it that my son is actually telling me, like, can't use it anymore, it's getting too obvious. The reality is, I think there is a debate as to how do we balance the productivity that ChatGPT can afford us and keep the realism, keep the human essence. So I know my marketing team does use it, but there's always a fine balance. I've had friends who've actually let people go because they weren't happy with how much ChatGPT they were using. So I think just, in the real world, not everyone's ready for it, right? And so some people are seeing it as a threat, or you're cheating, you're not doing your job, you're using too much of ChatGPT, so you're fired. This is a real conversation I just had 2 weeks ago with friends. So I think people are still taking time to adapt. It will take us time to catch up. You guys are moving at such an unprecedented rate. We're all catching up.
No, great. Thank you for the insightful answers. I think we can all hear that networking's begun in the back there. So we're kind of crushed for time. So we'll bring it to a conclusion now. So I would ask everybody if you could please put your hands together and thank our presenters today. And also a big vote of thanks to Joanna and for organising the event, and also the AustCham team. And we have one last special speaker today. So I'll hand it across to